Okay, so we're just going to do the first question here on the graphing real world relation worksheet that I gave you. So here's the first question. Suppose that a barrel of water initially containing 100 liters, so we're going to have this barrel of water here, and initially it has 100 liters of water. Okay, that's a little water there, okay? And it springs a leak, so we're going to actually have some water coming out, okay? Causing 5 liters of water to drain from the tank each minute. So basically what happens is, say we have a little collecting pail and there's going to be water going in that collecting pail. In 1 minute, okay, this collecting pail will have 5 liters. Okay? If V represents the volume of water in the barrel, so there's V here, which represents how much water is still in the barrel. So this is the volume of water that is still remaining inside the barrel. And T represents the time that has passed since the tank started leaking. Then the equation V equals 100 minus 5T can be used to determine the amount of water remaining in the barrel after T minutes. Okay, so my first step, what I would do is I'll get a highlighter or I'll take my pen and I'm going to highlight the equation. So all of this stuff is just background information. What I want to focus on is the formula. So that's me there highlighting the equation. So I know that that's my equation. That is what I have to focus on. Then what I should do is I'm going to label what these variables, this V and T, are. So I know that V, like I was saying here, V represents the volume. So volume of water. Okay? T here, T represents time. Okay? So now I know that this is the formula I have to pay attention to, and I know that this V that's in the formula, that's the volume of water. And T, that's also in the formula, that's the time, because I got that all from this background information. Here it says T represents time, and V represents volume of water. Okay. So in part A, I'm given these values of T. I have 0, 4, 6, 8, 10, 15, and 20. And that's given to me in the question. And what it says is I have to make a table using these values of T. Okay, so I'm going to just grab my pen here. So going back to that formula here, which is this guy right here, okay, I could use this formula by plugging in these values of T, these time values, and I could figure out what V is. So let's do the first one. In my first instance, T is 0. So I'm going to have here my formula, V equals 100 minus 5T. Okay. Now, T is 0. So I'm going to go V equals 100 minus 5 times by 0. Negative 5 times by 0 is just 0. So I'm just going to be left with V is 100. So I'm going to have here V. In the very beginning, there is 100 liters in the barrel. Okay? Now let's see what happens after 4 minutes. So I'm going to have here V equals 100 minus 5T. Again, that's the formula that we have here. And now I'm going to put 4 in place of T. So I'm going to have, again, V equals 100 minus 5 times by 4. So you do your multiplication before you do the adding and subtracting. So I'm going to have here V 100, negative 5 times by 4 is negative 20. And then work this out. 100 minus 20, that's V equaling to 80. So I'm going to just put 80 right here. Okay, let's do it for 6. V equals 100 5T. Again, that's the formula. 100, and I'm going to now, instead of T, put 6. 100 minus 5 times by 6, that's going to be 100 minus 30. And then 100 minus 30 is 70. So after 6 minutes, there is 70 liters in the tank. So you go through every single one, adding these values instead of t, in place of t. And what you're going to have is you're going to have 70 here for 6 minutes. Then you're going to have 60, 50, 25, and 0. So in part B, you then have to make a graph using this first column, using the time as the x-axis. So it's going to look something like this. This x-axis, the horizontal axis, that's going to be your time. Okay, so you're going to plot out your time using these values, and then your y-axis, your vertical axis, that's going to be your volume. And then you're going to plot out these values here. So your graph should look something like this. Okay, so again, this here is my x value, and I put in intervals of 5. And then here I plotted my volume, and I did intervals of 20. And you should just get a nice straight line like this. Now, what you have to do in part C is use the equation. So the equation, remind you, is V equals 100 minus 5t. Remember, that's the one that we highlighted in the beginning. To determine the volume of water in the, just going to add here my little correction, in the barrel after 3 minutes. So I'm going to highlight here, it says determine the volume. So if we have to determine the volume, that means we don't know volume. That means this guy right here, this V, is unknown. We have no idea what volume is, okay? But the question says the volume of water in the barrel after 3 minutes, okay? So we're given T, we're given a time, okay? So I know that this T right here, T is going to equal to 3, okay? So I don't know what V is because that's what it says. It says determine the volume, so we don't know what volume is of water in the barrel after 3 minutes. So we had that 3 minutes, so we know that T is going to be 3. And all you have to do is plug this in and solve for V. So I'm going to have here V equals 100 minus 5, and then T is 3 minutes, okay? V equals, solving this here, -5 times by 3, because I have to do my multiplication before I do my adding and subtracting. So I'm going to have 100 minus 15. Then 100 minus 15, that is 85. So after 3 minutes, there should be 85 liters still within the barrel. What you could do is you could verify. You could go back to the graph that you had, T being 3 minutes, so that's going to be just about here per se, okay? And you could go all the way up to where it hits the line, okay, in the graph, right about there. And then see, where does this hit in the y-axis? And yeah, that is about 85. So this verifies that my answer that I got here is correct. Alright, so part D says use the equation. So again, I'm going to rewrite my equation. The equation that I've been using is V equals 100 minus 5t. To determine the amount of time that has passed if only 53 liters remain in the barrel. So I'm just going to get my highlighter out again here. And it says here to determine the amount of time. Okay, so it says if I have to determine the amount of time, that means back to this formula, this T, I don't know what it is because I have to determine the amount of time. Now it also says here that has passed if only 53 liters. Okay, so 53 is the volume, it's an amount. So I know that this value of V here is going to be 53, and I have to determine T. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in this 53 into this formula. I'm going to solve for T. So I'm going to have here 53 equals 100 minus 5, and we don't know what t is. Okay, so then we solve this like we've been always solving these equations. So first thing is I want to isolate t, so I'm going to bring this 100 over, so I'm going to go minus 100 minus 100. That crosses out the 100, and I'm going to be left with negative 47 on this side, minus 5 in brackets t. These are being multiplied by each other, so I'm going to divide by negative 5 to cancel out this negative 5 on the right hand side. Over here I'm going to divide by negative 5, and I'm going to be left with t equaling negative and a negative is going to give me a positive. 47 divided by 5, that's going to give me 9.4. So this means that when there's 53 liters remaining in the barrel, that about 9.4 minutes has passed. And again, you could verify this if you go back to the graph that you made. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to look now over here at the volume, okay? So it says here the volume is 53, so I'm going to go to about 53, and I'll say it's about, say this was about 50, just a little bit above, so let's say this is 53. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way to where the line is. The line is about there, it hits the line there, and then I'm going to drop all the way down and see, is this about what I got in the equation? And yeah, I would say that that's about 9.4. So yeah, this answer is correct then.